Our second speaker of day one of the Quantum Soul Guidance Summit is Louise Platt. Louise is a galactic astrologer, quantum soul guidance practitioner based in the UK. She offers soul-based and galactic astrology readings, along with energy clearing services to identify and transmute any blockages and bring her clients back into alignment. She has a strong connection with the Blue Ray and Archangelic realms, but has also been described as a galactic ambassador with a huge range of fixed star connections. She was among the first to certify as a practitioner in June 2022 and has worked ever since to deliver insight and wisdom to over 300 clients, a role which she describes as her true passion and a niche she has been searching for a very long time. You can really feel this from her videos. She has plenty of amazing content on her YouTube channel, which I highly recommend. And she has been a regular guest speaker on our Galactic Astrology YouTube channel. So in today's presentation, Louise will beautifully explain what galactic astrology is, what it can provide insight on, and take us through a brief guide on how to read your own galactic chart using our own online software on galacticastrochart.com/free. When you enter your birth details, you can generate your own birth chart, including most common stars that were aligned at the time of your birth. So sit back, get your notepads ready, and enjoy the presentation. Take it away, Louise.
Julia, so much for that lovely introduction. And I just want to say before I get going into my presentation, what an absolute privilege it is to be part of this amazing summit. And I just wanted to also give credit to you, Julia, and your team for the phenomenal amount of work and sort of, that has gone into bringing this into reality and creating this for us all. So it really is a true joy to be able to come and to talk about something that I am so passionate about, along with many other like-minded souls. So I also wanted to say hello to all my clients, followers and subscribers who are watching either live this evening or on the replay, and also a hello and welcome to anybody that hasn't seen me before. So it is really like a huge kind of cosmic family reunion in so many ways. So yeah, absolute joy. So for those who haven't met me before, I'm a quantum soul guidance practitioner. I have now been working with this modality since I certified in July 2022. So I've had the pleasure and the privilege to work on over 300 client charts. I am based in the UK. I'm a mum. I have 2 teenagers. I'm married. And I sort of combine this, what I describe as my soul work now, with all those sort of commitments alongside that. So in terms of my background, I have got a Gemini midheaven. So anybody who knows much about astrology is going to maybe smile when I say I have had a lot of different careers in my sort of working lifetime. I started off with a degree in French, which, kind of give me a really good grounding because, I have a love for and an aptitude for languages, and I'll come back to why that's important in a little bit. I have worked in sales administration, I've worked in PR and marketing, I have worked in schools with young children. I've also had my own business prior to this, doing arts and crafts parties for children and classes and parties for children and babies. And I always felt that I was sort of I wanted to work in the healing sort of industry, but I always felt that I was sort of looking for my niche and I couldn't quite find it. Tried loads of different things. And it wasn't until I found Galactic Astrology and Quantum Soul Guidance that I sort of suddenly realized that actually, yeah, this was it. I had come home, I'd found my niche, and, this was where I land. And yeah, I haven't really changed that tack since. So I'm very intuitive. I also channel energy. I work with energy in terms of transmuting and clearing it. I'm very empathic. I have a really close affinity, a strong affinity with the Blu-ray frequency. And in terms of my galactic chart, if you were to look at it, you would see there are an awful lot of star connections in there. And I remember when I first did my sort of certification YouTube interview with Julia and Ursula, Julia commenting that, it was a pretty expansive and extended chart. And I'd obviously been to a lot of different places in my sort of soul's timeline. And I think, that is one thing that really serves me when I'm working on charts, because I have got connections to so many different star energies. So yeah, there's a lot of familiarity there. In terms of sort of the strongest connections in my chart, I would say Pegasus comes in very highly, Arcturus, Hades, Sirius, Orion, and then Alphard, which is opposite my sun, and Draco. So, and in case, anybody who's interested in astrology always wants to know the top three: Aquarius Sun, Cancer Moon in my 10th house, Sun in my fifth, and Virgo Ascendant, which I think is kind of a really nice combination for this kind of work. So, if you're new to Quantum Soul guidance, as a modality, it is very broad. It encompasses lots of different elements. And certainly when you do the course with Julia, that is covered. And we have this sort of invitation to pick out the pieces that sort of we feel most comfortable with, that we resonate most with. But sort of holistically, it is such a good way to connect with your soul story and with your past, with your soul gifts, and really sort of access that soul blueprint. Galactic astrology is one part of that. It is a large part of Quantum Soul. And for me, it tends to be what I focus on. I do bring other elements into my work, but I would say galactic astrology is kind of one of my biggest passions. And, going back to the languages and the linguistic ability, I've sort of really come to realize over the time I've been studying and learning and working with astrology that it has its own language. It's a language in itself. So having that sort of linguistic background has really helped me to learn the language. And certainly when I found galactic astrology, I realized that that was another new language entirely in itself. So that has been a real sort of help to me, and also having really strong air in my chart with the communication gifts and abilities as well. But I would say, I use galactic astrology. I have a very intuitive approach to reading the chart, and I would say that the stars really speak to me. I mean, they're speaking to us all, but you have to be able to kind of tune in to their language and their frequency sometimes in order to be able to hear them. So today's presentation, I've called it Move Forward with the Stars, an Introduction to Galactic Astrology. And when I was sort of thinking about, what am I going to do? Julia sort of contacted us sort of last year and said she had this plan to bring this summit together, and for whoever would like to be involved, and I knew instantly that I absolutely wanted and needed to be part of this, but I really wasn't sure what to talk about. But I kept sort of hearing just keep it simple and go back to basics. So I've decided today to really just bring to you an introduction to galactic astrology. I'm going to explain what it is, what type of people it's going to work for or likely to be interested, why we use it, what it can teach us, and why it's becoming increasingly popular at this time. And then I will also sort of show you a chart, a basic chart, and give you a few of my tips on how to basically read it. Obviously, I can't teach you galactic astrology in the time we have got, but I will give you some pointers. So if you're faced with the chart for the first time, you have an idea of what you're looking for. I'm aware that obviously there's lots of different people signed up for this summit, and there's a broad range of levels of people here, with different levels of understanding. So I'm going to try as far as I can to avoid using too much jargon. I'm going to try and keep it simple. So hopefully, if you don't know anything about astrology, you're not going to get lost and you'll be able to follow what I've got to share. But I also want to sort of just set the intention and the invitation that if you are sort of a seasoned astrologer and you've been doing it for years, that there will be at least one thing that you take away today that I share that perhaps sort of helps you to see something in a different light or something new entirely. So we'll see how we go. And I also wanted to say, I'm very aware that there are a wealth of different speakers with loads of amazing topics in as part of this summit over the course of this week and the next few days. So if you're watching my video, I truly am grateful because there is a lot of choice, and I know time isn't always available. So yeah, really appreciate you being here with me today. So I'm going to show you a couple of slides as I go through this presentation. I'll jump back and forward. So this is my first slide, and it's just a collection of quotes that I have pulled together from clients in sort of response to a galactic astrology or quantum soul reading. And the top one is actually my own quote. It's my own words, my own sort of thoughts. And it is how I remembered who I am. I mean, this truly was an epiphany for me when I found galactic astrology. I had had an Akashic reading about 10 years prior. I'd been introduced to the concept of star seeds, and I was sort of that resonated and it made a lot of sense to me. It sort of made me understand a lot about why I'd been feeling the way I had. But there wasn't a huge amount of detail and information at that time. And I know everything comes to us at the divine time. But it wasn't until I found galactic astrology that I was able to fill in so many gaps. Now, I've always been obsessed and mesmerized with the stars, with the sky at night, sort of looking at the different patterns. As a child, I only knew a few, the main ones, Orion, the North Star, and the Plough, etc. So, for me, finding a galactic astrology, again, it was like learning a new language, but it was also really helped me to be able to look at the sky and see it in a completely different way, to recognize the names, to kind of understand the energies, filling in so many gaps, and also ultimately coming home to the self. And, in the next quote on this slide, I feel truly seen. I would say that's probably one of the most sort of common sort of things that people say after having a galactic astrology reading or a quantum soul reading. And I think it's to be able to see yourself ultimately at a soul perspective. And, I feel that the work we do as practitioners is essentially holding up a mirror so that you can see yourself from a different angle, from a different perspective, and access a deeper level of information that is already in your soul. Your soul and your higher self absolutely know, but, we do forget when we incarnate. So to be able to have access to that information just helps people really feel seen and understood, and it helps them to see themselves and to understand themselves as well. So I felt my energy expanding and lightening, really, really beautiful. I think somebody had replied, to how they'd felt when they were reading the report. And I thought, that was really beautiful. And I think it does really help your consciousness to sort of increase and rise as you start to learn more about yourself from this higher perspective. So, and the last one, deeply healing, activating, and like being wrapped in a blanket of stars. I just thought that was really beautiful, and, too beautiful not to share. And I think, if I can create that kind of experience through the words that I share, then, I must be doing something right. So that was a fairly long introduction, I appreciate, but let's sort of talk now about what galactic astrology actually is. So if you know anything about astrology, you will know that astrology takes the positions of planets within the solar system, various cosmic celestial bodies, angles that are created in the chart, and plots them together on a wheel, so that we can really see how that their placement in the sky, their placement in the zodiac, and their aspects to one another, which really gives us a sort of an overview of the soul's blueprint effectively. And in being able to interpret all of that and what it means, we can unlock so much information about who we are, how we're showing up, how the energies are affecting us. So when we are using galactic astrology, we take that basic wheel and we can use it for a birth chart, which is a very common use, but also use it for transit charts, for progression charts, for solar return charts. It's kind of limitless in terms of what you can use galactic astrology for. But galactic astrology takes that chart and adds a layer of fixed stars, cosmic points, and celestial bodies onto the chart and sees how they align with the other parts of the more traditional astrology. It is then a case of interpreting them, seeing, how they're showing up, what planets are they activating, what houses are they in, and to give us a really sort of expanded picture of your earthly soul's experience, the intentions your soul had for you in this lifetime, and how those stars and cosmic points are really showing up and influencing and supporting you. So as I said, it works for any kind of chart, and it's great to really explore. You can find out all sorts with a galactic chart. You can look at past lives, you can look at past star connections, but I think for me it's more relevant to see how those star energies are really influencing and impacting you in this lifetime, because I think this is actually the most important moment, and we should be putting all our focus on our current lives, as far as possible. So, I'll be honest, I'd never really given much thought to fixed stars, other than seeing a couple of very familiar ones in the skies before I found galactic astrology. But this study and this work has just completely sort of opened my mind and my awareness to so much more. So the next slide I'm going to show you is just a quick overview of the different aspects that we bring in to create a galactic astrology chart. So we have fixed stars, and fixed stars are effectively stars that have a fixed point in the zodiac and in the sky. They do move, but only marginally, about 1 degree every 70 years. And this creates this sort of sense of permanence through their presence and their energy. They're very timeless. They have this sense of eternity and endurance, this steady fixed point of reference across the ages. And it kind of, I think it's really beautiful to think that our ancestors would have sat, on the ground, looking up at the sky, seeing the same patterns that we see today. They've been weaved into stories, they've been used in folklore, in myth, they've been used to navigate, as a real sort of signal point for many, many humans over the ages. And they give us a sense of scale and a connection to something that is just so much greater than us. So completely different sense of perspective, taking us beyond our day-to-day reality. And they help us to contemplate the vastness of the universe and our place within it. So ultimately, because they are fixed, they are acting like anchors. So, enabling us to anchor that energy down as starseed souls, but also to give us that anchor to something outside of ourselves. I've listed a few names here. Arcturus, Andromeda, Orion are probably more of the well-known and familiar names. There are, I believe, over 6,000 fixed stars. Not all of them have been registered and named. Obviously, some are more familiar than others. And we then have stars like the Alphard, which I mentioned is strong in my chart. The royal stars, Fomalhaut, Regulus, Antares, Aldebaran, Crux, Sirius, and many, many more. So it is a case of really getting to know their sort of energy signature and their archetype and what their meaning is. And I will talk a little bit more about that shortly. We also have the cosmic points. Now, the cosmic points are the galactic center, supergalactic center, great attractor, and the Shapley attractor. Those are the four that we work with currently in our galactic astrology work, although there are many, many more out there. And these are similar in that they have a fixed-ish position, but they are much more powerful and potent than fixed stars. So they act as, and many of them act as black holes, and they can warp and bend time. They are very magnetic and very transformative. So they are very much here to stretch our reality and our consciousness, to expand us, to challenge us. And ultimately, they pull us back to source and all that is, sort of stripping away anything that is not of integrity and authenticity. They all have their own way of showing up and affecting the chart. And I would say if you've got a lot of close alignments to these points, or all or some of them, you're going to have a much higher level of consciousness. You're probably going to feel quite different from people around you. Some have said they feel invisible when they have a lot of cosmic sort of point energy in their chart. So it is challenging, but it is the sign of a really sort of high frequency soul. And then we have the stargates and the nebula, which for me are like portals to other dimensions. These are, for example, Lyra Ring Nebula, Orion Nebula, and Antares. And when I see names like that in the chart, I always know that that soul is very well traveled galactically. They've been to lots of different places. You know, they can move between dimensions with ease. That is something that comes very naturally to them. These points really represent creation, rebirth, infinite potential, and they also connect us to the cycle of death and rebirth, because effectively that's what the nebula are. You know, these are old stars that have imploded, they've been destroyed, and a new star is born out of the remnant. So very much about transformation and universal truths. Again, very powerful when in the chart. So who is Galactic Astrology for? You know, who's likely to be interested? Well, I'm going to sort of, hedge a bet that if you're watching content like this, then it's you. Ultimately, I think it's great for any soul that sort of sees themselves as a star seed. And when I talk about star seeds, I mean souls that are not sort of originated from Earth. They know, they have an awareness that they are from other parts of the star system. And one of their main roles by being here is to bring the star energy, the galactic cosmic energies down into Earth through being incarnated and being in a physical body to really help support Earth's ascension process by bringing those higher frequencies in and effectively seeding the star energy. So anybody, who wants to know about their starseed lineage, who knows they've been elsewhere, but they don't know where, absolutely brilliant. And I love galactic astrology because, I mentioned an Akashic reading earlier. I think that's a brilliant way to find out your soul story. But I think to see your galactic report and see the names and see how sort of, they align with your other parts of the chart, it just feels not scientific necessarily, but it just feels really tangible and very real. So I think for me, it's brilliant for starseed lineage. Also, anybody who is interested in sort of seeing how cosmic and fixed star energies are supporting them in this lifetime, how they're showing up and how they are being guided by galactic energies. And for people who know that really there is just more to existence and life than this, the kind of the meat suit, the 3D physical experience. They have an awareness of something beyond and out there, and they want to kind of start to get more information about how they are affected on a personal level. So galactic astrology really helps us to reconnect to the cosmos. It expands our consciousness, our awareness, and beyond the earth and the 3D. And really, this is stretching us, helping us to grow, to learn more, to remember, to reconnect. And also through galactic astrology, there is so much that you can explore, but ultimately we can look for your soul mission, we can look for your soul gifts, your soul purpose, where you've been, where you might be going, because again, often we can see what's coming in the future as well. And, again, it's ultimately about self-knowledge of the soul. And why is it so important and sort of rising in popularity now? Well, obviously, Earth's is ascending. The consciousness of humanity is on the rise. More people are waking up to the truth that rather than sort of thinking of themselves as humans who have a soul, we see ourselves as souls in a human body, and that totally flips the perception. And more souls are awakening to the truth of who they are. More star seeds are awakening and being activated, and everything is divine timing. Things are speeding up. The ascension process is rapidly sort of underway now. And so more and more people, I feel, are going to be called to explore these kind of areas because of this huge rise in consciousness. I think generally more people are starting to kind of want to know, what's life about? What is the purpose? What's the meaning? Why am I here? Who am I? And there's also a desire to know how we fit into the bigger picture, because again, I think as our awareness expands and we start to consider that, there may be other, I don't know, lives, species, whatever, outside and beyond Earth. Galactic astrology is that sort of bridge to help us explore that. And of course, as with everything, astrology is evolving as a practice, as a modality. We're discovering new celestial bodies, new dwarf planets, new asteroids every day. And as we do, we're adding their sort of energy into our knowledge base and it basically expands on what we can bring through and understand through a chart in terms of the insight we can access. obviously we're moving towards, or we may even already be in the Aquarian age. We're on the cusp, who knows when it exactly starts, but we're in that sort of transition period. So as the Aquarian age sort of comes along, again, that is going to really I think, expand our galactic perception and our understanding of how we fit into the bigger picture and how Earth is just one part of the puzzle. I feel particularly this year, 2025, and I did a video about this on my YouTube channel just the other week. I feel this is a really strong and important year for starseed and sort of higher frequency souls. Sort of awakening among the more general public as well. Uranus and Gemini in July to November this year is going to be really big, I think, for in terms of awakening of mindset and understanding. The Pisces North Node, which we're in now, is really going to encourage people to consider something beyond themselves, beyond the physical, sort of more connection with the higher self and the soul, which is going to activate lots more interest, I would say. Pluto's already in Aquarius, so that again, and Sedna in Gemini, there's lots of transits this year and beyond, which I think are really going to open up the potential for a deeper understanding, a wider understanding, and more connection with our star families. And of course, there's been a lot more UFO sightings of late. There was a whole sort of thing in the news before Christmas about drones, are they aliens? Are they spaceships? What is it? I think it doesn't really matter if it's fake or whatever. It's creating a dialogue and interest, and people are talking about it. So, I think from all of those reasons, the future is very, very bright for galactic astrology. Now, how do we do it? As I said, I can't really teach you in the time that I have got left, but I would like to share some pointers. So, in terms of what you need, you're going to need an open mind and an inquiring mind. This is not for everybody. It's not going to resonate with everybody, but if you're watching this kind of content, I know I'm talking to you and you do. So you will need also a basic knowledge of astrology, because galactic astrology builds on traditional astrology. So you will need to know the house system. You will need to know what the signs sort of represent, their archetypes, the planets, again, what they mean, how they're showing up, what they're doing in terms of the chart. You will also need to know your own birth details, so your birth time, your birthplace, and your birth date. The time is really important. And I know for some they don't have the exact time. I have worked with clients who haven't had access to that, and I've been able to sort of decipher a time for them and create a reading that has really resonated with them. So it is not, and there are other people who practice rectification, which is a different approach to me. But it is, if you have the exact birth time, you can be guaranteed that you're looking at the exactly correct version of your chart. So time's really important. And, you might not believe it if don't know much about astrology, but even a matter of minutes can actually make a difference. So, yeah, we want to know all those details. And then you're either going to need to create your galactic chart manually, and you can do that by having a list of fixed stars and their degree points in the year of your birth. That's quite a long way round to do it. Quite laborious. So if you can go onto the galacticastrochart.com website, which Julia and Hector have created, which is the most incredible resource. You can put in your details. Even if you're not sort of on the course or a practitioner, you have access to a free version. I'm going to show you a copy of the chart in a second, and that you can get a copy of your birth chart or any you can get a copy of your birth chart, and you can see your key star alignments. You're then going to need information about the different sort of star energies and their archetypes in order to be able to interpret it. But I'm going to show you, my next slide just shows you an example of the chart. So we've got here an example of the chart. This is the free version that I have pulled off, and this is actually the solstice chart for December. And as you can see down the left hand side, you've got the column with the names of the planets in it, the angles, etc. Then the next column shows the signs and the degree point, then the houses, and then the next columns are the different star alignments. Now, I probably should have said this earlier. When I'm working with fixed stars, I will use an orb of 2 degrees. When I'm working with cosmic points, I tend to go a bit wider, up to 3.5 to 4 degrees. Some astrologers use a wider orb, but for me, I think the energy is much stronger when the orb is a lot closer. So what you really want to look at, I've selected this chart just with conjunctions and oppositions to try and avoid overwhelm. You'll see some lines are empty, there's nothing on them. Some lines have got quite a few. If I was looking at this chart, and obviously, empty lines doesn't mean that you don't have any connections there, especially if we were to add in the trines, sextiles, and squares. This would create a much busier chart. But like I said, I've tried to keep it simple. So this is what you would see, lots of words, lots of numbers, but basically that is your galactic chart. And then if I just go to my next slide, I've highlighted here 3 lines towards the bottom. So when you're starting out, what I would say is you want to look at the outer planets first. Go to Pluto, that is the outermost planet. And with anything on the Pluto line, that is indicative of a very ancient fixed star connection, very ancient galactic energy. Fixed star or cosmic point that has probably traveled with you through many lifetimes and is really supporting your soul's evolutionary journey and really encouraging deep transformation in this lifetime. With a conjunction, it's going to be more embedded. With an opposition, it's going to feel perhaps a little bit more harder to reach, further out, harder to connect with, more distant. But as your consciousness rises, the idea with the oppositions is that that energy starts to become more integrated. And sometimes I see it as energy being projected. So star energy that is literally being beamed at you to support a part of your life in this lifetime. The Neptune line, obviously, in this chart is empty, but if you have stars connected with Neptune, this shows your divine spiritual guidance in this lifetime. Stars that are coming through to really support you at a spiritual level. And also, because Neptune is about vision and imagination and creativity, I often interpret this as, stars that you have this particular responsibility to come in and literally bring that vision of their traits, of their energies, of their archetypes into Earth to support the ascension process. And as you visualize it and start to really live it, you are able to manifest it. And it's sort of, it's a ripple effect to other people starting to recognize that as well. So that's a really beautiful line. And then the Uranus line, Uranus being the planet of awakening and breakthrough and chaos, is really showing you ancient galactic lifetimes where you may have actually set and agreed your galactic soul mission, but also energies that are really supporting your awakening process in this lifetime. So, we look at the house placements as well and the signs, really kind of bringing in all this different information to create this story about your past. And then if you move to the inner planets, you can see I've highlighted 3 at the top here. Unfortunately, I have cropped off the name of the planets rather unhelpfully, but the top one is the sun. And the sun shows us where we are receiving sort of our inner light in terms of star energy, inner guidance, that inner voice, and also potentially lifetimes where we have actually sort of helped to prepare ourselves for this lifetime. And you can see on this chart, there are 4 connections here to extremely high frequency, Galactic Center and Polaris. So, there's a sense here, if this was a birth chart of a soul who has really connected to and anchored in some very high frequency energy to support them in this lifetime. There's also dragon energy there through Eterman and Orion through Betelgeuse. So yeah, really, really high and very high frequency soul if we were looking at this as a birth chart. The moon shows us stars which we have a really deep emotional connection to. And it may even be a star that kind of gives us that sense of belonging, that real sense of home, of nurture. In this case, Achenar in the Eridanus constellation, very high frequency, connected to the river, symbolism, elemental energy, very playful, very linked to nature. And then the ascendant is possibly the most recent connection that's going to be showing in your chart. It's almost like energy that you are bringing through you, in terms of how you're showing up, energy that is trying to find its voice through you, find its expression through you. And, it's going to feel very, very familiar. And obviously, you can see on this chart, there's lots of different planets, loads of other connections. We can look at all the different lines. There's just some examples here. And Venus, if you have sort of gifts and abilities that you feel may have origins in other lifetimes, we would often look to the Venus line for that. Jupiter can show us, where you have energies that are really here to support your growth and expansion, maybe affect your belief system. Mercury, the messenger, will show us if you feel that you're able to channel star energies. We might be able to see which stars they are coming from, supporting communication. Mars can often, indicate stars that you may have had conflict on, or challenging lifetimes, but also energies that are really giving you life force, and so on. This is not exhaustive. There are many other different sort of planets, angles, bodies that we can look at in terms of their alignments with the fixed stars. And obviously, when we start to bring in the house placements and all the other aspects as well, because it's not just oppositions and conjunctions that we're limited to, we can really start to create a beautiful story and really let the stars speak through us. So how do we interpret them? Once you know what you've got, where they are, how they're showing up, how on earth do we interpret the energies? Well, for me, this is really the fun part. And I would say no one size fits all for sure. I personally prefer a more positive interpretation. I know there's some quite negative and quite scary interpretations out there when you start looking. But, again, look online. A lot of sort of stars have mythology based sort of interpretations, which really resonates with me. And the star physiognomy, the characteristics of the star also come in, and also the archetype of the sign that they are sort of associated with. I don't know, Arcturus in Libra, very much about balance, harmony, healing, for example. And, just to give you a few other examples, Sirius, which is the spiritual sun, has been worshipped as the spiritual sun across many ages, is associated with spiritual wisdom, spiritual mastery, with the mystery schools, with sort of ancient esoteric wisdom. Algol, the Medusa star, often associated with the divine feminine, with the goddess and monster type archetypes. Facing your fear, cutting off what no longer sort of serves you. Obviously, if you think Medusa lost her head. Pegasus, I mentioned Pegasus earlier. This is the flying horse, the way shower, the pathfinder, very multidimensional, very sort of good for prophetic and visionary abilities, the ability to rise up to see the bigger picture. Often when you've got strong Pegasus, you may find actually that you really want to fly, or that you kind of wish you could fly. So use your intuition, allow the stars to speak through you and share their message with you. So I've come to the end. I wanted to say thank you so much again for being here with me. And I have got a free gift to offer, which I think Julia is going to sort of send information or the access link after the summit. It's a free ebook that I've written just to kind of give you a little bit more background, go over what I've shared today, add a little bit more in. I also have a list of resources that I use. It's not exhaustive by any means, but it's my favorite sort of links, resources, books, websites, etc., for finding out more information about the fixed stars. And I've also put in some recommendations on how to connect with your star energies once you know which they are and once you sort of start exploring. So I hope you will find that useful if you're called to ask for that, and you just need to a link will come around and you just fill in your email address and that should come to you. I have a mailing list. I'm also on YouTube, so regularly sharing insight and information about astrology, about stars, about what's going on, about the energies, etc. So please do subscribe if you're not already. It's called Spiral Bright Insight, as are my Instagram and my Facebook platform. So again, please do look me up. And if you want to learn more about astrology, Julia Balaz has got some fantastic courses which I highly, highly recommend. And again, I'm sure she'll share details of those. I'm hoping to bring some of my own teaching tools to the public later on this year. So keep an eye out for that. And, if you want to get more insight into your own chart, by all means, book a reading. There's many certified practitioners now listed on Julia's website, and we all have our own sort of unique approach, more or less, different strengths, different abilities, different areas of focus. So really sort of, see who you are drawn to, use your discernment, obviously, but really go with who sort of you are drawn to, and that will be the right person for you. But, if you feel called to work with me, all my services are listed on my website, and it really would be an absolute privilege. It always is. I never take it for granted. And I have to say, it always blows my mind, kind of these synchronicities I see in the chart and how, the charts really tell a story. So yeah, just so blessed to be doing this work. I can't tell you. So yeah, once again, thank you so much to Julia and the team and for, bringing this together, making it a reality, and for giving everybody this opportunity to really explore quantum soul guidance and all of this amazing sort of subject area in much more depth. I'm going to be staying behind to answer any questions in the chat room. So if you want to connect with me, please do. And if you're watching this on the replay and you've got questions, please feel free just to send me an email, hello@spiralbright.co.uk. I'd love to hear from you. So just good luck for everybody else who has got to come after me. And yeah, have a lovely evening or day, or, wherever you are, whatever time it is where you are. Thank you so much.